the idea of competition is a good thing. If there's no competition at all for what you do, is it possible that there's no demand? That is possible. It's also possible that there is, and you're discovering a brand new niche. But especially at the beginning of your journey, it's usually the case that somebody else is doing similar things out there, or many people are doing. The more people doing similar things, probably the better, because if those people are being successful at it, that means there's enough demand to actually have that sort of approach or that niche or the types of transformation that's needed to be served, right? And so, like, yeah, if you have one gas station versus four gas stations tells me that a lot of people need gas here. Otherwise, those four gas stations would not survive very long. So there's a market for it. But there's another whole part of this. There's the third side to that coin now, which is that there's only one person who is you. Like there's competition for some of the things that you might do or some things that you might provide, but there's no competition for who you are and who you become and how you build yourself up. The way that you show up in the world, your own particular style, your personal life and professional experiences that you bring, your own viewpoint. The people out there who are doing what you do might have a different viewpoint from you. In fact, they almost certainly do have a different viewpoint. And you can take the things that you like from others in that world and leave the things you don't like, because you're going to do it your own way. And as you learn to do it your own way through, I think experience is really important. You're going to figure it out for yourself, what you bring, and have more confidence in that value and the uniqueness of you. And so, like, it's really easy to think like, oh, like I'm no different from the next person, but you're totally different. And one exercise you can do to see that is catalog some of your life experiences, catalog some of the things, especially the adversity that you've been through. If you've been through adversity, that is a really powerful way to think about what you learned and how you grew through that, and some stories you can tell clients like what's unique about you. And there you might come up with some signature stories in that area around what happened. Like I have one around my mentor when I was at General Motors in corporate. I won't tell a story now, but I have a story about a mentor who changed my life. That I went through an adversity as a leader in that company. I spent 2 years, and that adversity was really powerful because then I spent the next 8 years going through my own transformation. So that's a powerful piece of leadership, adversity that I learned and had to go through. And I figured out a lot of stuff. So I can help a lot of people that way. And my own particular approach and voice here is unique. There's not really competition for me, because part of coaching is the relationship that you have with people.
Yeah. And which connects back to what you said around transformation. The transformation, and this is why we in the coaching world we say you're client zero. There would have to be some kind of transformation on your side to help others get transformations. And usually connects back to your story, usually connects back to what you've gone through. You're not the important piece here, but people need to hear and connect with that story for them to go forward. And that's why when you run a workshop, when you're speaking, when you're doing anything, even my first coaching session, I always go, unless if they don't know my story, I will always go back to the story, which is the origin story. And this is why also in movies you see origin story. Why are origin stories so big? Because people connect with the character in the movie. And usually you're sharing this. One of my favorite questions that I recently started asking the past 6 months after I share my story. I didn't used to ask this because I used to be very insecure about sharing my own story. Now when I ask them at the end of the story, I'll be like, what did this tell you about your story? Because the important part about this story was, and then people start connecting the dots. Oh, he's sharing it so we connect with our story, not for himself. While they're connecting with me, they're connecting with their own story. And this is what motivational speakers do. They connect people with their own story, with their own why, with their own stuff. And they think they're getting motivated by the other, except they're realizing their own whys and their own narrative and their own story behind the picture. And so that transformation, which is the key to this whole process, cannot happen without you having to go through that transformation. I think the whole journey of you building a business, a coaching path, is your transformation for your growth, but also you're supporting other people too. And a lot of coaches jump into this because they've had some kind of transformation, so that's there. The problem is that they stop growing. A lot of times they share stories from like a decade ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They're not taking risks now. They're not going tours. And I actually even talked to a coach that I met last year, and he kept talking about the struggle he had 20 years ago. And then I'm like, that's incredible. And like, what's happening now in your life? And you could tell he hasn't taken any risks for a long time, and he keeps going back to that old narrative, which is fine. You can share that, but then now you've kind of stopped growing, and that shows in your process, which connects back to what Daniel is saying around your uniqueness. This is why you're gonna kind of go above competition, is that your narrative, your story, how you process things and how you help other people process things and see things are very different than the next person, because your life experiences are so different. And that's where competition stops being a competition, because you're selling a custom, unique, for most coaches, high ticket programs. You're not selling a training program like Brennan Burchard in the beginning.
Yeah, and something you're saying is actually really important. You touched on it multiple times. One is that, yeah, you are client zero. But another way to say that, sort of like you were talking about, if this person has not had any growth or risk in their life for 20 years, they have that one story, and that was relevant then. It's probably still relevant now, but what's more relevant is, are you still growing and transforming today? Yeah. Because if you're expecting your client to grow and transform with you, and you're not a good role model for that, it's going to be an impediment, not only to them, but to your confidence and your coaching, your own coaching, and your own progress as a coach. Like, being a coach it's like one of the reasons I love coaching as a career is it requires you to keep growing. And one of my biggest values is growth and evolution. And so like that's what I seek to gain for myself and for people that I'm connected to and that I interact with and that I influence. I want to see growth and evolution. That's what I want. And that's one of the things that excites me about coaching, is like, I realized that you're so much better when you're growing as a coach, if you're growing as a person. And your clients benefit from seeing your growth. If they can see you, and this is why you also share a little bit about yourself along the way. You don't make it about yourself, but as Faisal said, it's about how they relate to you. If you share the stories about your growth, like right now, I'm going through some insane level of growth in my personal life. I've had 2 kids. I had a baby last year, and coming out of that, baby fog, I had to rebuild for my new life with kids and family. And so I've been working really hard on that.
Are those stories showing up in your coaching sessions?
Totally are. Yeah, they totally are. I talk a lot about what's going on in my life, because, and this in January, it's been really interesting. A lot of clients and others and prospective clients and things have said, Happy New Year. How's your 2024? I've been saying the same thing. And it's really great to be able to say, like, here's how I've really changed in the last 3 months. I've rebuilt habits around this. I've taken over, different parts of the family life and the home. And I am feeling really energized. And it wasn't always true. Like, sometimes I was feeling really like overwhelmed by the whole baby life. But right now I feel really charged up, and I see the next level of growth, and I'm always reaching for it. And I'm in the game every day. I've got personal growth and transformation. So if I'm doing that, then I can also act as a role model, which creates a lens or a focusing of that energy for the client to understand, yeah, you're in the container with somebody who's transforming themselves. So it makes it safer and easier for them to do so. Because it's a role modeling thing.